You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Today, a conversation with an MLA from Edmonton, Honourable RODRIGO LOYOLA, about being Muslim in politics. But first, some news headlines. Consultations for Canada's first National Action Plan on Combating Hate begin. Saskatoon's Myanmar community protests military rule for 60th week in a row. Inuit Indigenous Delegate asks for devil priest to stand trial. And African penguins at risk of extinction, warn experts. And now the details. Ahmed Hussein, the Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion, launched Canada's first National Action Plan on Combating Hate yesterday. The action plan will build on the work of the Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat, which consulted racialized and minority communities across Canada. It collected over 400 recommendations for a new anti-racism strategy. The National Action Plan on Combating Hate will consult diverse groups across Canada. Anyone interested in participating must fill out an online questionnaire by April 30. The plan comes as Statistics Canada reported a 37% increase in police-reported hate crimes in 2020, with crimes targeting race or ethnicity having doubled. Saskatoon's Myanmar community protested for the 60th week in a row in front of City Hall Saturday. Protest organizer Kinhitei Chintayin told local media sources that since the Myanmar military overthrew the democratic government in a coup last February, the country is now in a de facto civil war. She said that the local militia fighting against the junta is small and under-equipped. She wished Myanmar people received the same support as is going to Ukrainians. The United Nations reported that the military targets civilians. There are over 1,600 killed, 500,000 displaced through airstrikes, and millions in danger of an impending humanitarian crisis. Natan Obed, an Indigenous delegate and head of the Inuit Tapirit Kanatami, is asking Pope Francis to have a priest, Johannes Rivoire, stand trial for multiple alleged sexual assaults on Inuit children. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police issued a Canada-wide arrest warrant against 93-year-old Rivoire last month. Rivoire, named by an Inuit as a devil priest, now lives in Lyon, France. He left behind 6 victims, one of whom committed suicide in 2012. Obed asked the Pope to use his authority to extradite Rivoire to Canada or try him in France. African penguins, whose populations have rapidly declined over the last century, may go extinct in the next few decades, according to experts. Listed as endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the African penguin population has plummeted due to multiple human factors, including industrial fishing and fuel spills. Kata Lodinya, research manager at the South African Coastal Birds Conservation Foundation, told Anadolu Agency that only 2% of the species' early 20th century population remains. Climate change, fuel leaks, underwater noise pollution caused by marine traffic, overfishing, and infectious disease are other important factors contributing to the fall in their population, she added. And that's it for the news. Today we have a very special guest. He was elected from the NDP in Edmonton in 2015, re-elected in 2019, a champion of human rights and a Muslim politician, Honourable RODRIGO LOYOLA. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you for having me on your show, sister.
It's really our pleasure. It's an honor for us. Just a general question to get started. Why did you decide to run for politics?
Well, the reality is that I come from a country where we experienced violence. It was in Chile, and it was, of course, the September 11th, 1973 military coup, the reason for my parents actually coming to Canada. And because of coming from that background, human rights has always been a primary focus of mine, especially when working with the Canadian population so that they could understand these issues that are going around the world internationally, and so that we can do a better job not only of here at home but abroad to help people understand issues related to human rights. And so around the dinner table, politics was always a topic of discussion. And I was eventually asked if I would run for politics. And when the opportunity came, I said yes.
And you mentioned September 11th, another date of tragedy for human rights.
Indeed. So for those who may not know, in Chile at that time, our democratically elected president was overthrown in a military coup by a right-wing dictator. I try not to mention his name because it's a sore spot, and it's a trauma that many even second, third generation Chileans continue to live with. I wouldn't put it on par with the residential schools and the experience of our Indigenous people here in Canada, but it's a similar experience where it's important for us to never forget that these atrocities happened, so that we make sure that they never happen again.
Not to mention the US role in stirring the pot on both of those September 11th, but maybe that's an international politics issue. We can steer away from that for now. And I believe that you are a convert to Islam like myself, who didn't change your name. Did you convert before or after being in office?
I actually reverted to Islam after being elected. So I was, of course, elected in 2015, and I reverted to Islam in October of 2018. And yes, it was an important decision for me. For those in my political colleagues, of course, were questioning the timing of it because we were leading up into another election. But I simply told people, if people aren't going to vote for me because I'm Muslim, then I don't want those votes. I think that it's very important that faith it's a main identifier of many, many people, regardless of what faith they are. And we shouldn't shy away from being proud of our faith and who we are and how we identify. And for me, I'm very proud of being Muslim. I think it informs a lot of the understanding and insights and knowledge that I have about the world and my place in it and the role that I have. And especially,
I wanted to ask you about that. In 2020, Edmonton City Council voted to oppose the anti-hijab bill in Quebec called Bill 21. And I do understand the difference between provincial and municipal politics. But as a Muslim politician in Edmonton, in the same city that opposed that bill, how did that make you feel?
Well, I was very happy that the Edmonton City Council did, in fact, speak openly and against Bill 21. It's a topic that I bring up repeatedly with my own constituents and constituents all across Alberta, because I think that we need to continue working hard. There's a lot of work to be done when it comes to religious freedoms, and not only for Muslims. In my own constituency of Edmonton-Ellerslie, it's like the United Nations, I'll be honest. We have many people from Sikh background, as well as Christians, Hindus, and it's important that we all work together to understand that human rights is something important. And part of that, of course, is religious freedoms and respecting one another, regardless if we're from different faiths. Alberta and Canada as a whole is a place that all people call home, and we must work hard to make sure that that diversity is respected. And I believe it makes us stronger.
Our sister organization, well, sister in spirit, not legally or anything, Justice for All Canada, has been in Edmonton recently to do a awareness raising, and you were a great supporter apparently of their work. Can you tell us what it is about Justice for All Canada that attracts you?
Well, number one, I would say that based on our teachings of the Quran and as well as our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, justice comes before all things. Justice comes before religion, it comes before ethnicity, it comes before nationality. And standing up for justice and human rights is important because at the end of the day, people have to be able to live in the societies in which they are growing and living and bringing up their children. And of course, Justice for All Canada is an organization that's trying to bring, shed light and build a lot of awareness around human rights issues as they relate to religious minorities in a lot of countries around the world. So for me, this fits into my own personal understanding about the world and wanted to support the work that they're doing. And of course, I think it's very important that we identify it, and that is that fascism as it exists throughout the world is something that is slowly penetrating even Western democracies. And that's why we have things like Bill 21 and these
the issues that Justice for All raises are more on federal level, though. So how does it interact with you being a provincial politician?
I think that even though it is a federal matter, as I was alluding to prior, what ends up happening is that these things that are happening at a global stage begin to inform what's happening in our local government, whether it be provincial or even municipal. And that's why we're seeing things like Bill 21. And it's important that we raise awareness about these discriminatory pieces of legislation that are happening all over the world and are happening here in Canada. And when we begin to relate what's happening globally with locally, we begin understanding that it's one struggle for all of us to make sure that these discriminatory laws don't make it into our books.
So as an MLA for Edmonton-Ellerslie, what are the issues that you're trying to put forward on the agenda?
So there's many issues that we are focusing on, and primarily being affordability one. Many new Canadians come to Canada with their families with the hopes that they'll work hard and that they'll gain the opportunities of being part of this legal jurisdiction and being part of Canada as a whole, as a society. Many of them work so hard to make sure that their children can go on to post-secondary education. And of course, these affordability issues will drastically impact people when, and especially that we've gone through this whole experience with COVID, and of course the economic crisis that ensued as a result of COVID. And it's very important that people aren't scapegoated, because we see this happen. This is the way that fascism works and discriminatory laws work around the world, is that whenever times get hard and there's an economic crisis, immigrants tend to be the ones that are targeted. And I think it's important for us to continue raising awareness around those issues. Yeah.
So during the truck convoy from, out west to Ottawa, the police actually arrested some far-right groups I think it was in Alberta's southern border. You mentioned having become Muslim just prior to an election campaign. So did you get any anti-Muslim pushback in your campaign, or even now? Like, do you experience hate yourself?
Most definitely, it happens. I've spoken openly about the human rights issues in Kashmir, for example, and because of that, I was targeted by Hindutva fascists that actually live right here in Canada. So not only targeted by Hindutva fascists internationally, but people that follow that particular philosophy and ideology right here in Edmonton and in Alberta and in Canada, was targeted by them, trolled by them on social media. And at the end of the day, it's so important for me to stand up to this type of discrimination. And at the end of the day, for me, it's important that regardless of the trolls, regardless of the hate, regardless of the pushback, we must do what's right and follow.
Well, it's a very difficult experience to live through, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're actually out of time. Thank you for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thanks for watching Canadian Muslim News. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe. God bless.